As you guys already know, and what I've already mentioned in the previous intro video, was that I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've recorded needs a little context and maybe a bit of an intro, a setup, if you will, so that you have a good understanding going in to each video exactly what the circumstances were surrounding it. The next video, we refer to it as the Homestead video. We did this about 2 months after we started doing the recordings at the resort, and we were having such fantastic luck at the resort that we decided to expand or broaden our horizons a little bit. And of course, it's still a bit of a hobby. We weren't really professional ghost hunters or anything of that nature. We just enjoyed doing what we were doing, and since we had caught so much wonderful stuff at the resort, we thought, well, could we do this in other places? So we had been hearing stories from different people in the area. Now, mind you, this is out in the country and people have all kinds of stories, but one of the places they referred to as the old Homestead, and they said we might have some luck there. Now, I had already gone down to the old Homestead before the film that you're going to watch, or the video that you're going to watch, and I had seen what it looked like, and I had kind of walked around it just to make sure it was safe and that sort of thing. I had taken some pictures and some video, and my partner did not want to go down there at night. So we decided, on a warm spring day, just to go down in the middle of the day and check this place out. Now, I was raised in the country, and considering the circumstances and this place's location, which was a few miles from any type of houses or roads or anything like that, it was deep in the woods. I decided to bring a knife and a gun. I was carrying a revolver. This is mostly for animals, snakes, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to be prepared for anything that might have come up. Like I said, I grew up in the country. Always better to be safe than sorry. So we arrived probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe a little later, and we set up a phone camera, a tablet, and we had, my partner brought her PSB-7 or ghost box, and throughout the video that you're watching, you're going to hear the fast sweeping frequencies of the PSB-7 in the background. So that's what that noise is, if you wonder. It shuts off at some point, but we were there for probably about, I would say 20 minutes before we heard the sound that we recorded and that you're going to hear. When I first heard the sound, I just assumed that it was some type of animal. And you will see me, you'll see the camera that I'm holding, you will see me dip down and look under the building, because the building was up on blocks. It had been built that way 100 years ago, and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a rabid dog under the building, or a bobcat, something like that, something that could potentially injure one of us or worse. And you will also see me point the camera into the room where I'm trying to look through the slats and the boards on the wall. There was only one way into that room, and it was overgrown from the outside, so we never actually entered that room. The tree and brush that was covering the doorway from the outside was just a little too thick for us to penetrate at that moment. We didn't come prepared for that sort of thing. I didn't bring a machete or anything like that. So we decided to just, walk around on the outside of the building and do, our recording and investigation there. When we first heard the noise, it was a bit startling. I didn't jump to the conclusion that it was anything supernatural or paranormal. I assumed immediately that there was a potential threat from an animal. But you will see, as the film progresses, as the video progresses, you will see that I am trying to get it to respond directly to my questions, comments, statements, that sort of thing, because I wanted to establish 100% that it was responding directly to what I was saying. You can't hear the sounds without putting on a pair of headphones. I highly recommend that you watch the video with a pair of headphones, because you will hear what we heard, and you will hear it much more clearly. And regardless of what you hear on the video, you have to bear in mind that it was, for us standing there, it was about 5 times louder than what you're actually hearing on the recording, because it was emanating from another room. And we weren't using professional microphones or anything like that. So the sound is dampened before it reaches the microphone. And of course, it startled my partner to a very large degree. You will hear the panic in her voice, and I want you to be aware that that is very genuine. It's very real, because she had already, in her mind, decided that this was not a natural phenomenon, that this was something paranormal or supernatural. And I had still not made that decision in my mind. I will continue throughout the video to prod whatever this thing is, or to prompt it to respond to me. And at one point you will hear me say, okay, we're leaving. And that was when I had decided that I could not identify where this sound was emanating from, and it was beginning to bother even me. I'm not easily startled, but I was perplexed. I had been able to see everything in the adjacent room through the slats, and there was nothing in there, and there was nothing under the building either. At about a minute 8, minute 9 seconds, you will hear a clicking sound. That is actually me drawing my revolver and drawing the hammer back. And I stepped to place myself between the sound and my partner, because at this point I'm thinking probably 50-50, that it's potentially paranormal, but it's also potentially natural. And either way, it didn't sound fucking happy. It was very threatening and very clear about the message it was trying to send. So we decided to start moving away. But the incredible thing, and you will hear the sound probably 7, 8, 9 times throughout the video, the incredible thing is the noise that was emanating from that room got closer to the wall, as if it was coming from directly on the other side of the wall from where we were standing, and it got louder, and it began to move with us as we moved further down the wall, around the corner, and out towards the opening. It was moving with us, as if it were keeping an eye on us and continuing to warn us away until we were well clear of the structure. One thing you will not see on the video or hear on the video, because we stopped recording at one point, is once we were clear, we had proceeded to move 20 yards away from the structure. I went back to look through the front door to see if I could see anything, because at this point I'm still just so baffled as to what it could have been, and I want empirical proof one way or the other that it was either natural or supernatural. So I couldn't let go of it, and it terrified her that I wanted to go back, but I walked back down, got within 10 yards, and started peering through the doorway as best I could through the brush, and there was nothing in that room. There was no living creature capable of making that noise in that room. It was bare, just 4 walls and a floor. That disturbed me. That definitely disturbed me. And so I moved back to where she was, and we decided to continue our trek out of there. And I took the lead. We were walking through some very tall grass, and I didn't want any snakes or anything, so I'm beating the brush with a walking stick, and we're moving slowly back through the tall grass that we had come through. And she screams, and I spun around and pulled my pistol again, because this blood-curdling shrill scream made me think that something had attacked her. There was nothing there, and she was white as a sheet, shaking, She said something grabbed me from behind. She said I felt it rush up on me and something grabbed me. And of course, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. I was making my own noise with the walking stick beating through the brush, so I didn't hear or see anything. I just immediately reacted to it, and I don't know what to say about that. It wasn't my personal experience. I do know that after that, she was terrified that something was going to follow us, or that something was going to attach itself to one of us, and she would never go back. I went back by myself because, again, I was still seeking answers. I wanted desperately to understand what I had seen and heard, or, what had happened. So I went back by myself about a week later, but it was quiet as a church. It was so quiet, and there was nothing there. And I recorded the entire time I was there. I did not attempt to engage or speak to whatever it was that we had recorded the first time, but I did record the entire trip just to, see if there was anything that I may have caught just incidentally, but there was nothing. I went back one more time before we left that area, before we moved away. And again, I was presented with silence, absolute dead silence, almost an eerie silence that was just so juxtaposed to what we had experienced the first time. But I'm not labeling that or lending any credence to that or saying that it means anything. I'm just saying it was definitely a stark contrast to the original experience. As always, I invite you to make comments and ask questions, especially if you want to ask questions, specific questions. And as usual, as you're always going to hear me say, I'm not saying one way or the other what this sound was, what this noise was. All I know is that it was very threatening and it was moving with us. It was definitely a warning of some kind, be it natural or supernatural. You would have to be stupid to ignore a warning like that, or at least not, pay attention to it and show it some respect regardless of what it was. So also, bear in mind that it's all 100% authentic. I'm not claiming that this is, some spectacular proof of ghosts or paranormal activity. So I'm not trying to fake anything. I'm not trying to, add sounds that weren't there. This is not play acting. You will hear actual fear, especially in my partner's voice, but probably even a little bit in my own. You will definitely hear me become a little defensive, and you will hear me try to diffuse the situation or at least placate whatever it was to the point that it would leave us alone until we were able to get out of there. All of it's genuine, all of it's real, and you make the decision on what you think it was or what you think was happening, and you ask questions later. So enjoy, guys. Thanks.